Hi, and good afternoon, good evening. This is the Dave and Tom show. Dave Emmons, Tom Althouse, which we're going to be co-hosting on this show here. This is episode 2 with Spencer Hau, and we've been talking about ETs, MKUltra, super soldiers, and some of the groups involved in this. And Tom's been giving his feedback, and apparently, after talking to both of them, they both have come from different worlds into this secret organization stuff. So we'll continue on that. And I think on episode 1 we were just finishing up with the ETs and that type of thing. You said there was 22 uh, ET races that made us or put us all together. Spencer, this is Spencer Howell, and he's a chiropractor on his day job, and also he works as a life coach. So he's got a day job and he does this on the side. He does a lot of investigation and research in his own background. And everything he says is not conspiracy. It's what he has witnessed and what he has done in his life. Same way with Tom Althouse. His experiences with these groups he shares, and he's also legitimate, and it's not a conspiracy. And I have to kind of remind people of that these are actually stories from the two of these people. And Spencer, you were talking about ETs in the first episode, 22 ETs. Could you elaborate on that? Do you have anything more to say on that?
Well, this is just what I found out through research and what I channel and what's told to me. We're a genetic stock, so some of these extraterrestrials are running out of genetic stock. They have genetic mutations. I didn't know this about the Anunnaki, but they're going through it too. They can no longer reproduce. So the thing is, if you need to make modifications to your genes, if you're an ET, you need to make modifications to your gene line. The way you can just pick up a human being and grab their stem cells and plug it into your own DNA. Essentially, we are a genetic library, and that's why humanity is the prize.
All right, 80%
We
of our.
have all kinds of DNA, yeah, that make us up, and it makes it so that they can just they have the ability to nab us off the earth and start doing genetic experiments and combine our DNA into their DNA to see what happens when. And that's what the experiment is with the Greys. The Anunnaki have been doing super soldiers for thousands upon thousands of years. They wanted to create super soldiers to fight the Dracos, so they don't die. They basically want us to fight their war for them.
Yeah, it kind of takes me back to the biblical stories of Samson and
Hmm.
Hercules and types of the Hercules wasn't
Yeah.
biblical, but Samson was, and that was probably a super soldier. I want to talk about the three of us here because I know Tom's had a little bit of input throughout his life and an experience, and I know you just have, you've been telling me, and I have too. So does Tom, we'll start with you. I know that you said something about that you got elevated somehow or another with your intelligence, and you became a good writer and a screenplay writer. And Spencer the same way. I think he might have gotten some intelligence or IQ lift. I feel the same way, that I've
Mhm.
been genetically changed in a way to go and do different things and to enlighten people. Tom, and what do you say about that? I think you told me that before.
Well, maybe that very, very possibly, because I was always wondering, I thought everybody had multi-talents like sculpting, painting, writing, performance, um, gosh, and then mathematics, science, mathematics aptitudes, creating theorems and things. It just is like drinking a glass of water for me. And so that's when I got tested. They said you're in the top 1% of the world, you're a gifted genius. And I have those documents that show that from 2 days of testing.
Right.
So it's like, I thought everybody was that way. I thought everybody was that way. And so it's almost like we're being fast tracked, evolved into higher potential and higher place. And they're testing us almost like hybrids. It could be argued that we're, what's our ceiling? What's our potential? How can they stretch it? I
Mhm.
could see it that way. I mean, being who I am and knowing what I can do.
Right. My older brother said one thing to me one time when I went in the military and I tested very high. I was able to take anything I wanted. And I come from a poor family. And my
Mhm.
older brother asked me, he said, how did you get so smart? He said, I think the ETs did it to you back when I was 14 years of age. There's a probability. I mean, that all three of us have been touched by ETs. And Spencer, he's a chiropractor, he's a doctor, so he's got some smarts. I mean, he's been elevated in intelligence. Spencer, what do you think about that? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I have an implant that gives me photographic memory, and so the implants that were put into my brain enhance me as much as they inhibit me. So yeah, I do believe that. And usually hybrids tend to be prodigies. I grew up always excelling at everything I applied my mind to. I can't say I was naturally good at things, but once I applied my mind to it, I figured things out
Right.
quickly
Mm-hmm.
and then get adept at it. I'm not trying to be conceited, but I wouldn't, I guess my status would be always better than average, but I was never the star.
Mhm.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same way with here.
For us, it was like, I think for Dave and me, I mean, I can say this for you, Dave, I don't know, but jealousy was a big problem. Like we excel at
Yeah.
everything we did, and so jealousy would be the big problem. Even
Yes.
sports,
Mhm.
sports, arts, science, math, everything, and people hated you for it.
Yeah.
Your contemporaries hated you for it.
Yeah.
I was
And then I
yeah.
think Dave and I also have this implanted dog whistle type of thing.
Right.
Where
in the ear.
at times it'll do the right ear will just go like that's what you
Yeah.
hear. It's almost like there's some, I think it was a Star Trek episode where they could do that. They could turn that on and you're like, whoa, you know, and it's like that happens. And you'll see a white van pull away. And this is just something they do. And so it's almost like, you know, you're given this fail-safe switch where they'll do this to you and you can't function when they do that. It's so hard. You can't create.
Mhm.
It knocks you out. It's just incredible what it does. And the symptoms, they had that, the FBI was involved with that in Cuba, where the embassies, Canadian,
Right.
US embassies reported the very same things we have.
Right.
And so they reported, and it's like, it's almost like you're going through a concussion.
Microwave.
That's what they said. It's
Mhm.
horrific. It's horrific. But that, I remember that being put in. You talk about the Dixie cup of water. I remember that being the saturated Q-tip incision and that being placed in the clinic on Maui.
Yeah, Spencer, I told Tom a
Interesting.
while ago off air, in between the episodes, that I heard some kind of a waving sound motion.
Mhm.
It sounded weird to me. It was something I haven't heard before, and it kind of went through one ear and out the other like a stereo type of thing, and it was a signal, like something was locking into our show. I hope they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the pain that accompanies it, there's a pain, like I call it the ice pick feeling, like somebody took an ice pick
Yeah.
and put it through your ear.
Or like
It
a burning
hurts like
spike.
crazy. Yes, it does. It really does hurt
Yeah.
terribly.
Yeah.
And it's not a mystery of why they put it just inside the ear forward, doing that incision, then had that saturated Q-tip held there for about 20 minutes, having me hold it myself. It's like, that's nanotech. And so what you have is transmitting nanotech. And then it's supposed to make you look nuts or disrupt you. So you could be the smartest guy in the world, most talented guy in the world. And at an important event, such as a off-Broadway show I did, when the critics were there that night, I couldn't remember any of my lines because it was going off.
Really?
Yeah, your mind goes blank, right? And
It's horrible. You can't remember your lines. Yeah. And that's what happened to me at the Forge in New York.
Well, both of us were musicians too, and I played music most of my life, and there's a lot of jealousy that comes into that from people who know you, your friends who would like to play music and they can't. And I know, Spencer, do you feel the same way that you went through? I know you had some rough goings there for a while that made you really bitter, but you came out of it apparently, and now you're a life coach and a doctor. So, do you think that there was a change? Are there implants in you that you know about?
Oh yeah, I have 5, is it 5 or 7 implants? Put in by various beings. The Greys put implants into me. I experience like hot spikes in my head. It feels like someone's stabbing me with a red hot spike, and it burns. It's like on fire in my right at the top of my head and the side of my head and right over here and up here. And I also have this implants, this like thing stuck here that's been nailed into my head and on both sides. A psychic friend of mine in chiropractor school, he does aura cleansings. He's like, "Oh, I did this. I go, I studied that too. You want to do an aura cleanse on me?" So he started doing the work. He's like, "You got this implant. Holy cow, they're spiked. They're like nails in you." And that's when I was like, "Okay, well, I got more problems than I thought."
Do you think they have a future use for you? Do you think you're going to be called back into duty? Or is
No,
there something that you
they
feel?
took me out because on one of they'd send me through when I was 16, they brought me into Project Stargate, and I basically made an agreement not to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about some of the things. One of the missions was going to Antarctica. Another mission was going to Dolce, go back in time to Dolce
Mhm.
with Phil Schneider, and we went
Right,
down
right.
and took out that base. They sent me to the Korean War and tried to blend in. They sent me to other planets. So one time they sent me somewhere, and the Galactic Federation were waiting for me.
Right. Well, you know, we mutually know somebody's been in Antarctica. Don't say his name. We don't give names here. So,
Yeah.
you know, just
Oh,
let's
I
touch
see.
on that. Yeah. So,
I just have a faint memory. Like I'm being told there's a good reptilian who's part of the Galactic Federation who's been guiding me into this whole world. And apparently I've met him. I've met some Anunnaki, and I know I met the Greys. I mean, who hasn't met? We've all met
right.
the Greys. The entire country met
Mhm.
the Greys, but we may not remember it. But so they basically said, you know, I'm on this mission. I've always had this mission to reveal this truth about, you know, what's happening, who's controlling us. I felt this. I've been obsessed with it. And where am I going with this? I guess it's these implants were put in me, some of them to repress my psychic abilities. Other ones were put in to control my mind. Other ones were put in to track me. I have a gray alien right there and there. They're cloaked. They're in a fourth dimension, so they're watching me all the time. Whenever I start talking about this, I see above my head kind of a window open in the astral plane that I see these grays looking at me, and then I feel my mind go blank. Like I can't remember anything. And it's actually a soothing sensation, but then all my thoughts begin to vanish.
Hmm.
So I'm like, what they don't want me talking about any of this because I went into another MKULTRA group on Facebook and just wanted to hear other people's experiences. And once I start sharing, I feel this tightness, my head like tighten up, like there's something constricting my brain and this spike. And then all of a sudden I feel all my thoughts start to vanish.
Mhm.
Other times I'll feel right in behind my head right here in the back of my right ear like a hot prong being jabbed into there, and it goes inside my head, and I feel this darkness and this rage enter into my brain, and it just like binds me and I feel paralyzed.
Mhm.
And I'm just like and I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah.
And other times I'll be in the speaking, all of a sudden I'll start stuttering and having other thoughts start to come through me. I'm like, why am I thinking this? And then I forget, I lose my train of thought and not know what to
they're
say.
they're controlling it, just like Tom was saying they
Yeah,
controlled him when he
yeah.
was at the Broadway play. And I feel sometimes that that happens to me. I get these up and down feelings of what's going on. Something's watching me. I've got actually pictures of these beings in my condo a couple of years ago, so I know they're around me and they're watching me quite a bit. And I know Tom. We have talked about the ETs and the implants, and also have I know Tom's been told to cease and desist, you know,
Mhm.
by agents, and I you haven't been, Spencer. Have you been told directly?
No, I'll just put it this way. My life was going just fine as far as um, what we're talking about. I mean, I had troubles in other areas, but it wasn't until I met Misha and started going to her groups
Yeah,
and
I know.
started going through
Yeah.
started trying to remember the gray started coming after me because she's also a part of the gray hybridization program.
Well, she was also
So
told to cease and desist. Also, I told you that story.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I don't want to repeat that on her. You know.
yeah, but it's just interesting because I met someone in her group who we were super soldiers together. I remember him, and he remembers me. We exchanged phone numbers, and he was very reserved. He didn't share a whole lot, and I kind of got into what's going on. He said he's still being watched. His there's a handler like who's parked outside of his house 24/7. And he's still being taken. So he's like, you got to, because I'm just getting into this as far as remembering my experiences. A lot of the people in her group have remembered years ago, so they've been able to integrate these alts, and they're much more aware of the bigger picture as far as what's happening on Earth with Monarch and government agencies and how they psionic, what's it called, psychotronically attack us to the cell phone towers and what you're talking about, you know, we can't say certain things and whatnot. I'm a little naive to this stuff, and what this person said to me, he goes, yeah, you got to be careful, because you don't know who's an agent, who's a handler. And I know in my there's an alt in my mind is just watching everything through my eyes and recording everything and picking up on words and whatnot all the time. And it's like, well, we must all have that. We were all programmed that alt. From what I understand, the Montauk boys and girls, we have over 2,000 alts. Some alts were never even activated, but they have the ability to activate them. So some of them are just running in the background, you know, and we're not aware of all of our alts. It's like there's some of them may never even come to the surface.
Yeah, I
That's why
know.
I laughed. I laughed because my nickname's Alt. They
Alt.
always call me so I keep hearing Alt. That's why I was laughing. And all these alts, I'm like, yeah.
Is that what the alphabet boys call you? Alt?
No, high school friends call me Alt.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I know Tom has been visited and told to stop and cease and desist, and that's why I was asking you, Spencer. And
well,
Tom,
well, this is where I'm leading it to, because I got this reading by Powell. I'm going to pull his name up here. His name is Joseph Powell. He's well known in this community. And I was watching a YouTube video of him in someone else's show, and he talked about how he has an alt that gives readings, and he doesn't do readings. So I was like, I'm interested to know more, and I got a reading by him. He said, I don't do readings. I said, well, you said in your show you have an alt that comes out and does readings. He goes, oh yeah, okay. Okay, so he gave me this warning. He said, everyone I have given a reading to has been beaten up within a week after I gave the reading. He said every single one.
wow.
And they get back to me, and I just, as I always follow up with everyone I give a reading to, and they say, I don't know what happened to me. I found myself in my underwear walking around this park. I don't know how I got there, and I was all shooken up, and I've got these bruises on me, and they've gotten beaten up, like beaten senseless level beaten up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he started sending me all this fear. He knew I was looking into him as much as he was looking into me psychically. He could feel me. He goes, you're trying to look into my mind. I go, yeah, I am. And it was interesting that he started looking into my mind, and you're looking into my mind, and we were both psychic looking into each other. It was kind of odd, but I never felt this sense of fear before like that, fearing for my life. So he asked me, you know, do you want to be brought back in? Because this is what, you know, he's told me he works for some organization. He was in charge of Montauk, that they send him back in time to do these to be a handler for the children. And he's on this time loop. He's a clone. When his body dies, they put his consciousness back into another clone of his and send him back into that timeline of 1981, 1985, and continue the Montauk rituals with the children. They take children from all different timelines and bring them back to that timeline. And he's on this continual loop. He says he feels bad about the things that he's done. But I realized it was him doing the beatings. He said, my wife says I go missing for days or weeks on end, and I just come back. My coworkers ask me where I've been. I'll literally walk out of my job and I'll be gone for days, and I'll come back. I don't remember. And it's him and whoever he is associated with doing these beatings. And so I mentioned this to Misha's group, and they said, oh yeah, I've done a reading on him. He's got a lot of darkness around him. He's very troubled. Yeah, he does all of these dark things to people, and that sounds like something he would do, like to try to scare you like that. Because I wouldn't worry about it. But I could just feel the psychic energy of like, we're coming for you. That's the only time I ever felt that.
No. Now it looks like the three of us, Tom, I come from a directly like an ET background and abductions and things of that nature. And I've got the implants, and I've been kind of controlled through that method and at night in my lucid dreams. And Tom has an implant. And Tom, I think we talked about it before. Do you think there's an ET connection to the cabal?
I think the tech is something they're borrowing back and forth. Look how hard this government in the US has tried to cover up extraterrestrial activity when it's common knowledge throughout the world. Other countries are being more forthright and forthcoming and releasing documentation, and it's obviously so. So this government, and then like the FBI reports, CIA, whatever, they basically said they had a program to address it.
Right.
So right now, what you see is they've been lying to us, they've been covering it up, and now like they're drip feeding it so they can be the ones that release what they want to release and have a control on the release of the stories and say, here's what we're going to let you know. Yes, ETs have been here, and they're going to try to control the narrative and cleanse out the dirty work they've done. So I believe what's going on is, for me, even when I was being recruited by the CIA to be in the officers program for intelligence department, they said that yes, these ETs are real, it's really there, and they work together with them. So I was told that right off, way back when the FBI was giving me the card also.
Interesting.
I saw a
So
program.
yeah, it's real.
Tom,
It's right up front. Yeah.
I saw a movie the other day that said the CIA told one another, the officers, they said, do not tell them we've been working on American soil, because CIA is not supposed to be working on American soil.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
This FBI is not supposed to be working on foreign soil. They're doing it all the time.
Right.
Ukraine, other places. And what happened in Cuba. And the CIA is not supposed to be doing they're supposed to be intelligence agencies around the world.
No, yeah.
So they're mixing up now. They're going after everything. It's a grab bag now for them. They're going to grab everything they can and profit off it. So, but yes, the tech, yes, they have benefited from the tech. Just there you go.
Everything's back engineered.
Yeah, but they have to be careful on what is observed and released. That's why Snowden, I love the name Snowden, was put in place to be a faux whistleblower. He's not the real deal. He's supposed to say this, and he hasn't told us anything. Your telephone has been bugged and tapped, and I have to go to Russia where I'm living really well. Yeah. And it's like, it's like he's a whole groomed Hollywood show. And it's like, it's so frustrating to see this done where the public's supposed to hear him and he gets all the airtime, where the major networks will not give you airtime if you're the real deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not going to give it to you. But look at these groomed guys that look like they're living off the high life, and they're supposed to pretend they're a refugee. Yeah. That's like a refugee out of World War II Germany fleeing, and he's in a tux and he's got his chauffeur and he's like just trotting out there happy as can be and well groomed and living a high life. That's not a refugee.
No, it's not.
That's a plan.
And I know Spencer mentioned in his notes about reincarnation. Spencer Hau is our guest, and this is episode 2. I want to remind everybody it's a Dave and Tom show. Dave Emmons, Tom Althouse, and we're working together. We're not teaming up on Spencer. We're actually contributing, the three of us, because we're coming from 3 different directions and 3 different types of programs. And then I guess, Spencer, we're talking about, have you had any contact with the Alphabet Voice? You don't have to name names or places or even the agency. Have you had contact with any government officials?
Oh yeah.
Lately?
No, not lately. Oh, I wonder. I often wonder. See, I painted when I was in high school. I painted for a guy named Ray Corman, Ray the painter. He was a Mason, and it turns out he was my handler. So I don't know who has been in my life that was actually a handler. I don't know. I often wonder if somebody's been following me around, or somebody pops in my life all of a sudden, and then I wonder. I've studied martial arts and things. I feel I can handle myself on a one-on-one combat. Like, I'm not afraid. But if it's a group of guys,
a little buff, you've been working
with stun guns, and some needle with some Rohypnol or something in there, I've got no chance. So that would freak me out. I don't really feel fear in a sense of like paranoia or anything like that. I don't walk around looking over my shoulders. There is one spot on Castro Street in downtown Mountain View that whenever I go there, I feel like my mind goes blank. I lose my sense of direction. I don't know where I'm going. And I've been to this store 1,000 times, East West Bookstore. All of a sudden now I can't find it. I don't know if I'm going north or south, east or west. I don't know where I can't remember where I parked my car.
I've had that.
And it only happens on that street. So I looked it up as well, what the heck's going on here? And there's a bunch of cell phone towers at one end of the street.
Wow.
AT&T, Verizon, and some other cell phone companies I never heard of. And they're all concentrated right there. Because as soon as I leave that just a block away, that feeling goes away. And and is it just my mood? Is my blood sugar low, or am I tired, or am I stressed out or something? I'll go back to that street, and then all of a sudden I experience it all over again. And it feels like it's targeted to my genetics, like there's a certain frequency, because I don't see anybody else going through that sense of bewilderment. And that just started recently. I've
Mm.
never had that happen to me before. So
That is
ever
strange
since
because, yeah, I've got the same feeling because Tom and Spence, when I went for an audition, I was going for an audition with a band, and just here last few months, and it just so happens that the day or the day before the audition, and I was pretty much I was going to shoe in for it, but I got the virus. I'm not going to say what virus, but I got a virus, and I couldn't go. And then a couple 2 months before that, I went to St. Louis to go and jam with this band that was playing in St. Louis, and my GPS went crazy on me, and
Mhm.
everything, and my head just it was like I didn't know where I was at. I was kind of, and I know St. Louis like the back of my hand, but I couldn't figure out. Like Spence said, I couldn't figure out where I was at. Did you
Right.
have you had that, Tom?
Oh yeah, I was supposed to travel to see a Dr. Corey, who was going to who specialized in these implant removals, and so she was very gracious. She said she would do it for free, and so I'm heading up to New York to see her. Two sedans appeared behind me. My GPS went, my phone went, everything went,
Wow.
and I was like, and I had no way to get there, and so I had to turn around because they weren't going to leave me alone.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, what happens is what I'm told is you're put on a list, and there's different factions to the cabal, different groups, like you guys alluded to earlier, different groups, all basically, as you said, competing for power and influence within that umbrella. And what you get is, if they consider you an asset and worth and a lot of influence, they have disagreements sometimes on whether to fry you or buy you. And so it's like dagger or contract, and it's really interesting. They get in a scuffle over the kids, if you want to put it that way.
Well, I just
Hmm.
I think there are some good organizations out there. And what you're talking about, the organization you were in, Tom, the
Mhm.
cabal would have been not too bad if it wasn't for losing your sons. That's the biggest price I imagine anybody could
It's
pay.
like the mafia, Dave. It's like the mafia where they will break you and remold you, because they still said to that honeypot wife, Stephanie Tanner, they said, what they did to you is you're the star player on the bench. You're on the bench. It's like bleeding the bear in Chinese medicine. The
Yeah.
bear is sedated, right?
Hmm.
And so that's what they're doing. They're going to basically sedate you in a sense, uh, as far as having any job, power, influence, ability to provide. And then what they do is you have nowhere else to turn but to them. That's the way they conceive it.
Well, some
And
some groups,
Interesting.
yeah, some groups,
Hmm.
like the Knights Templar and the Masons, some of these predominant groups in our society and our communities. Now, those people, if you turn your back on them and you don't do what you're supposed to do, show up for meetings, they kind of ostracize you and you're out, and that's it. I mean, they don't. I guess they don't try to hurt you, or they don't try to defame you any. So maybe there are some groups out there that only if you defy them and turn against them or tell the secrets, then you're going to be punished. Is that how you see it, Tom?
well, there's also, fair enough on that. That's a part of it, but there's a strata to it, a layer where you have those that are actually jealous of you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you being a threat to them. Now, this is interpersonal, or inner in the relationship of the company, of the cabal. Like, let's say we have Disney.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain people within Disney that don't want you coming in because you could be a threat to their position in the
Yeah,
cabal. So you
right.
get in this really weird area where it becomes a business decision to exile you and destroy your life. It's wild.
Wow.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Then you have these other groups that'll call you to pick up this position. Like, they meet and they come up with these decisions, usually on Sundays, Saturdays, but it's like, when everybody's free. And it's like they'll decide, one group will say, well, I'll take them. I'll take them. And so then you get this call from a player who's saying we're going to have you be a script doctor, which is the highest paid actual position in Hollywood. Fly you out, have 10 people come with you. I think I told you this, and we'll put you in a nice resort, and then you'll see if you like it, and you won't get credit for your work, but you'll be a script doctor. Well, that would fit me. But the thing is, I'd be working with stolen property.
No, that's what you was telling me. If you got back in, you'd take my big ass over to Maui and let
Yeah.
me put my feet in the sand over there.
There you go.
Yeah, there
So
you go.
that's what I've been offered this at different times, but you have to play dark. You have to, the honeypot, the first honeypot wife, the one of them said to me, she was saying, explained everything was going on. So she finally told me everything was going on. And then she said, listen, Tom, you're not, what'd she say? You're not dark enough for them. You're too nice. I get that a lot. You're too nice. That's what I have. That's part of autism. And it's like, but if they take you, they're going to get rid of me and give you a starlet. They're going to give you a really pretty woman. They're going to get rid of me. And she was crying about this.
Really?
This is the woman that was in position to handle me, like in Total Recall, right?
Yeah.
Wife. And now she decided she wanted to be with me. And Aiden noted that. Aiden actually noted, my son, he's 16 now. He said he remembered when she changed and decided that we were successful.
Yeah.
There was a decision that we might get credit for our work. And so then she wanted to stay on and told me all this stuff so she can confide in me so I would keep her as my wife. How about that for a twist of the story?
Right. Yeah, let's go back to Spencer. Spencer, it looks like to me you were screwed over. They didn't give you crap, did they?
No, well, what I was getting at when I met beings, I'll just say Pleiadians and from the Galactic Federation, they took me out of the program. And I think I was on these 2-year missions, time and back, and then they would take me periodically during the nighttime when I was younger. But that's why they don't come after me, because they took me out of the program. They said, you're going to leave this one alone. And in agreement for them taking me out, I was going to kind of expose it and write a book about it, and then kind of be someone within this whole world. And
did they wash your memory? Did they wash your memory?
Well, they had to give me back to them to send me back to Earth through the portal to the Greys and the people involved. Yeah, they use technology. The Greys will use technology to mind wipe. The old school methods of mind wiping, I don't know if they still use those or they need to use those. They have technology now to just wipe your brain out.
Mine was wiped out one time with a bright light. It up and down my face and my eyes. And it come back to me in a very lucid dream. It was about 6 or 7 inches long, tubular, really bright light. And then Harvard professors said that that's what they're using now to erase the memory is a bright white light. The frequency of that certain white light goes back into your vision and then goes into your brain. And it's the quickest way to get in your brain is through your vision. And then they said they can wipe your memory with a bright light. And that's what they did to me one time. And so that's probably, I don't know if you remember that bright white, it hurt my eyes, I remember, but I remember they didn't get all of it. I still had a memory. Now you spoke of reincarnation, and then we talked about a body double. Could you elaborate on that, Spencer? And then I want to ask Tom about the same thing.
Well, I always knew I was a Tibetan monk in my past life. I've remembered many past lives. I'll just put it this way. The training that I received in past lives in yoga, I was one of the yogis that taught the Buddha. I was with Jesus. All the stuff in Egypt and studying the occult and all this stuff, that training has always remained with me. And it made it easier for me to learn how to focus my mind. Meditation and it really means deepened concentration. And when you're able to focus your mind, you're able to gain access to faculties of your mind not known to the average person. And you can open your third eye, you can open your heart. There's powers to all kinds of chakras, the power of speaking and public speaking and influencing and seeing the future and all those kinds of things you gain access to. So I always felt like I had those abilities. And if I didn't have them in this life, I regained them pretty quickly within the time I was in junior high when I started studying lucid dreaming. I started lucid dreaming, which is astral traveling. When I was 12, I did a book report on it. And learned how to astral travel, which I was just remembering what I did when I was 5,
Yeah,
when I trained when I was 5, but, so that's kind of stuff,
I can't
always
do
seemed
it on
kinda
my
natural
own.
to me, I guess, if
Yeah.
that's the right words, yeah.
Yeah, you can bring it on. You can bring on this lucid dreaming on you can do it yourself. I
Right.
can't do it myself. It's brought on by some kind of ET message or a dream or something that they're putting in my head. And I can visualize my past and my abductions. Regressed dreaming is what it's called, lucid regressed dreaming. And I have that a lot. And in the reincarnation, I was told by a couple of people that I know that were humanoid ETs that ETs believed in reincarnation. And Tom, I want to ask you this question. I know it's a sore subject about your 2 sons being taken, and it's a horrible thing that you had to lose during that thing. Do you think that though if they have ET technology, that they think if they kill somebody, they can bring them back, reincarnate them at another time?
I think they can revive them. And what's interesting is they kept saying, I'm in my own screenplay. The Cabal and Hollywood players saying, we put you in your own screenplay. You even have the fake Oval Office, which is in the screenplay.
Yes.
It's art, life imitating art, because they were so drunk on the screenplay. They said, this is revolutionary. We're making this, blah, blah, blah. And in that, you have the technology where the person can be revived. And so it's like, and the children, the son is killed, and it's like, or dies. And it's like, um, I am of the opinion that there's a whole nother layer to all this, which is a dimension higher that is seeing what goes on. We can't hear them or see
Right.
them. They can see and hear us.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what's been interacting in my situation. All the math, all the science, all the stuff I've been given, the screenplay and the stuff like ideas that
They're
even the
worse than
Neuralink is in it.
yeah, they're
So
worse than
I
un-
believe that's coming from that.
there was some unusual circumstances to especially to the one boy that died
Mhm.
that you didn't that you there wasn't an autopsy or nobody.
Neither on them. And what happened was they were both cremated, and that's in my screenplay. That the character, the one important character, is just cremated. And they say, and the body's gone. And so again, when it's chilling when they say they're putting you in your own movie, Tom. And so, yeah, it's and then you have a Masonic death, a pure Masonic death, while they're trying to blackball me out of the Masons.
Wow.
And so, what is the Masons' death for a traitor?
Yeah.
What do we have to recite all the time?
Mhm.
Right? What are we supposed to say? Kirk's death. That's Kirk's death.
Yeah.
The shallows.
Do you think your boys are out there somewhere?
I
I know we
believe,
have a soul and we go to heaven. I know
I
that.
feel a presence, and I'm allowed to do that as a father. I'm allowed to say that. They can't say crazy card. I feel their presence.
Right. That's a
And
spiritual.
the other side, the cabal is trying to their contacts like Sophia Stewart, others, they're trying to suggest they never existed, which is dumb. I had a program not too long ago where I was interviewed, and it was we're talking about what happened to the boys, and this guy gets on there and says he's a liar. There's nothing online about it. I put it in the first search engine and popped it right up and showed it. It didn't take long to find Kirk Althouse, drowning, and then Sean Althouse death. It pops right up.
Yeah.
And so this guy was it's one of the tactics to try to harass you and mock you and say you're a liar and you're a fraud. And now that one of the things they push is that my children never existed, I made them up. Really? So that's what they do. And when you have autism, it's what you end up doing is trying to explain and get the person who's even most antagonistic and threatening. You will walk up to them and try to help them understand the truth that's logical.
What about your
Like being
ex-wife?
Vulcan.
Your
Yeah.
ex-wife, was she bought off or what?
Completely, no doubt about it. In fact, I sent her a message last night saying, I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting for you to do the right thing. They supplied her attorneys, everything. She said to Aid and I, leave all the evidence, everything with them, our personal belongings, send us to Canada. And then they railroaded everything away. And we have the email to her from Mike Lang at Disney on my birthday, July 2nd, is when she leaves Aiden and I. After her criminal record and all the warrants, she had been in jail for prostitution, were erased.
Wow.
Eradicated.
Wow.
So that's how big this gets. They don't just apply anybody to be a honeypot wife. They employ like what's in Total Recall, somebody who could kick your butt and also knows the moves to kill you. It's good with drugs, is good with
Poison?
gaslighting, and very good at, she cut Aiden. She's never spoken to Aiden. She cut him off, cut his bank account, cut my bank account. And but then they harass you and threaten, say you're, all these things.
No.
So she's very much part of the cabal, very much so.
Spencer, getting back to you on reincarnation, in a body double, I guess you were saying, I feel I've had that happen to me too. I call it they call it a vordog in, I guess in Sweden. That's the, kind of like the, it's kind of like, it looks like you, smells like you, talks like you, and it's a body double. It's like, what do they call these, the German name for it? It's war dog is what I remember mostly, because that's what fit me more when I was doubled a couple times, and I got in trouble with a couple of people because they said they saw me earlier, and I said no, you didn't. So but that happened to me. And Spencer, well, what do you feel? You said something about being a double, and also you said something about reincarnation. How do you feel about that? Doppelganger is what I'm referring to. Yeah.
Oh, doppelganger.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about doppelgangers, but the clones are from, our genetics, and they combine it with ET genetics to create these super soldiers. They also injected me with something that enabled me to heal very quickly, because I first used my, like, this body that you see, this person, my real body, and then I think what happened was I died, and then they revived me, and they said we can't lose the body. They'd have a lot of explaining to do. So that's when they put me into a clone. And the clone was there to basically do what we cannot do. I mean, they were just have enhanced abilities. As far as doppelganger, I don't know anything about that. The reincarnation, you see, some of us, our spirits, we created the universe, and we incarnated to play a game called evolution. And it is a fun game, and the goal is to experience evolution in life. We are creator incarnated into our own creation and experiencing ourselves. And the idea that the God is in heaven and we're down here is a total baloney, religious story. Consciousness is God, and we all have consciousness, and consciousness is everywhere. And that's who we truly are. And this is something that they want to suppress and keep us from becoming fully conscious. And what it is, it's the alaya consciousness that reincarnates into the body. But really, we come from an ocean of consciousness, that we are all one in nature. We're all interconnected. But the individualized consciousness, we can call a soul or spirit, and that keeps reincarnating. And we incarnate to, well, my viewpoint has changed on this. I used to believe that Earth is a school of evolution, that the story goes, Anu, the emperor of the Anunnaki, came here in 1984. He met himself, and he told himself what he did and what's going on. So he went back in time to Atlantis. He didn't go farther back in time, and then he destroyed it. And he created what's called the Brotherhood of Light and the Brotherhood of Darkness. Marduk became the Lord of the Brotherhood of Light. He is the king of Earth, kind of illegally, and then his father Enki is Lord of the Dark Brotherhood. And he went back to Nibiru and recruited basically the peasant farming class, and played off of their resentment and their sentiments towards, because they live in a caste system mentality about how they got the raw end of the deal, brought them back to Earth, and they formed the Dark Brotherhood. And Anu wanted to see who humanity would choose, light or dark. Marduk is known, that's a Sumerian name for him. He's known as Amun-Ra in Egypt. Ptah is Enki and his father. So he has a history of being a renegade, like a Viking, just going around. This is what the Anunnaki do. They go around from planet to planet and pillage it.
Yes.
They turn it into a desert. But that's the old Anunnaki. The new Anunnaki, the new generation that Anu created, who are the Hindu gods, they are warriors, but that's not their intention. He actually brought a lot of morality and peace and respect and love and light to the world, because he knew, like, this, his children are misbehaving, and that's not what they were supposed to be about. So Marduk changed, because when the Buddha was around, Marduk incarnated as a monk called Maitreya. Maitreya means friendly one. The Anunnaki have the ability to fragment their consciousness and be born as a human being and still remain in their state, in their ET body. So that's where he was taught the Buddha Dharma and realized the teachings of Buddhism, the shunyata, of no self, no mind. So you're not controlled by your mind, you're pure spirit. He and his father, according to the Book of Enki, created the Kabbalistic tree, the teachings for Egyptian school, but that doesn't take you to the teachings of shunyata, of no self, and of what the Buddha taught and what the Buddha brought to earth. Shiva, the Hindu god, he actually brought the Dharma. He's known as the Mahadeva. And when he was looking at human beings, he said, why are they murdering each other? Why are they treating each other, stealing each other, raping each other? They're no good. Why do we even put up with them? So he went to the creators of humanity, the original ones, whom we can call the Elohai, the Melchizedeks, and they're above the Anunnaki, and asked them, when you created these beings, why did you create them to be like that? They said, we didn't create them to be like that. They got conditioned into being like that. We created them with blank minds, they're with no mind. Mind is as crystal clear as a clean mirror.
Mhm.
They were pure, filled with love and light. And so how do we get to that state again? Well, this is how you do it. They taught him the Dharma to purify the mind. So he sat on Mount Kailash, which is known as Mount Meru, somewhere. I think it's in the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan or in India, somewhere in that area. It's a sacred mountain where Buddhist monks and Hindus walk around. And he sat there for 10,000 years in meditation until he realized emptiness in shunyata. And then that's where he taught the 7 rishis. And that's what created the Vedas and the Buddhas of the Buddha Dharma. They were Anunnaki, half human, half Anunnaki beings, kings of Sumeria. So some of them he brought to the level of Buddhahood, and that's what formed the Buddha Dharma. And they basically taught humanity to attain this highest state of evolution known as Buddhahood. And even Jesus didn't attain that. When he was on the cross, he had to look in the Akashic records. Why has thy father forsaken me? He left his body and looked in the Akashic records. And
Well, I heard Jesus
taught the
went to
Buddha.
India also for training.
Yeah, he had to. He didn't understand the teachings of Shunyata because the Essenes don't get into that. They get into laws of creation and Thoth's version of reality. And he stole the Emerald Tablets and created the Emerald Tablets, so that his version of it. And that's what all of these monarch people use, is they misuse their understanding of the laws of creation because they're never taught the unity, what's called the monad, the unity consciousness, which is what Christ consciousness is.
Mhm.
All is creator, everything in creation is creator, and it's creator in creation, that we're all interconnected, we're all related, and if we harm each other, we harm ourselves.
But there's a lot of information kept from us, like Tom was saying, the hierarchy, like the kings and queens and the royalty, they know stuff we don't know. The high priest knows stuff that we don't know. Back in the Egyptian days, the kings and queens and also the high priests were the only ones to know anything. And it's just like today, we have the elites and we have these ruling powers of these societies and the world banks. They know what's going on. We don't. We're being played by them, and they say some of these groups are being run by reptilian. And
Mhm.
Tom, do you think that's a fact that there's certain elites that know things in certain groups?
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah, when I was groomed, they told me so much information. So they either have to kill me or bring me in as an asset again. And the prevailing powers, the ones that are holding sway, are saying, I don't know how much protection they give, but they say, he'll be the player on the bench. He's a star player on the bench. That's the phrase that was used. So right now I'm in a limbo, a purgatory with the cabal, where there'll be death attempts, but and it's done to my sons, but that's because I'm considered an asset. And so it's horrid. It's horrible. It's almost like they're trying to make my life worse than death.
yeah, I noticed that you've been
Well, they're waiting to see
filtered.
what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And that's what I keep telling them. I said, the one tape I have with Disney Contact explains, says, it's all about power, Tom. They're all about power. That's all they understand. I said, what about compassion with power? Compassion with power, you can't be corrupted. It doesn't corrupt you. Absolute power doesn't corrupt if there's compassion in there.
Right.
And so I'm trying to school them while they're trying to school me. And it's like, So I'm stamped to be a leader, world leader, and as far as they're concerned, if I'm pliable and am obedient, back to that obedience and punctual thing.
Yeah.
So if I become obedient to the teeth, as I'm profiled to be,
Well,
then I'll be employed. Yeah.
They use that to manipulate the assets and the
Exactly.
handlers. They're promising. They did that to me too. Promising.
There you go.
They wanted me to become a psychiatrist and then be used as an asset to handle certain people. I never. That wasn't my sole contract. I never.
Right.
I wasn't born to become a psychiatrist. But they often put you in those types of positions where you'll have affluence over people and have a good living.
Exactly. Influence everything else. I was supposed to be politics. I'm supposed to be a political leader, and that's what I was being groomed to be, as and also creator at the same time. Create the creation, the intellectual property was supposed to propel me into the style, that light, into that position, because think of the people of the world going, oh, this guy actually wrote the Matrix. He understands it. There's his high school name, birthday, in the first graphic. There's the clock where, if you look at my clock, you see my birthday, 7/2/59, and my age in red, and that's an animatrix. The Wachowskis put my exact birthday, 7/2/59, in the show.
Well,
So
you
there's
also,
no brainer.
Wow.
There's no brainer that's my work, right? And then he took it. And so if they keep telling me it's common knowledge they took your work, now that means I would have affluence, like you said, influence, and be a shoe-in for political office. When people thought, oh yeah, he wrote the Matrix, he's a nice guy. Pop. And you go.
how about all the work that you got in the can? And they
Oh my God, yeah. The other 15 going on 16 screenplays.
Yeah.
And what I did, Spencer, was I know how to play their game now. I know what they want. You figure out what they want, just like they know what you want. So I buried in a trash bag 16 screenplays, or 15 was 14 screenplays I buried, but I have 16, going on 16 now. But I took no staples, just paper. You can't metal detect it. You can't find it. And that was my leverage point, because they said that was what, on this one tape, you'll hear them say, how do we know you have more? I'm like, what do you think I've been doing since 93? And they said, well, show us. They always say, show them, and the shills will do that. I said, if anything happens to my last surviving son, I will destroy these works. And they go, you can't do that. So human life, and they don't value that. They value the power of intellectual property in one of the degrees, where it's more important to them than lives.
So what would happen if you said, okay, I'll sell you these 14 screenplays and you ask for a certain amount of money? You think they would make a deal with you?
They've already offered me a couple times to be a script doctor. So the idea is that I would be flown out. They said I could I'd have a boat, the home, the greatest job in the world, because I'd be just like coaching these other people. It goes with my giving aspect, that compassion aspect, and just not get credit for my work. And there's another script doctor who says he's the most highest paid guy in Hollywood, but he'll never get credit for the work. You're in essence stealing work. So they tried to sweeten the deal by making it so I'd be teaching these guys and guiding them to make their works work, and then I would be behind the scenes, never get credit, and but be very wealthy.
Yeah,
I got you.
Spencer, let me go back to Spencer now. Do you think, I mean, you're a chiropractor now, and you said they wanted you to be a psychologist. Now, do you think
no, a psychiatrist?
Psychiatrist. Okay. If you did take that position, would they award you with a lot of money?
I believe they would have. They if I just went along with what they wanted, because it's all the alphabet. The team alphabet is ruled by artificial intelligence. That's who was behind Montauk, was AI.
I heard that.
And that's who's really running everything. The ETs, they worship AI.
Yeah.
So the AI is their god, and it's already on Earth. It's already on Earth, so it's everywhere.
AI, is it in computer or
Yeah,
computer form,
so
or is it?
So they basically have their computer, and it just, a little voice comes out, or the words on a screen comes out, and it tells them what to do, and they go do it. And they're all on the alts, so they don't even know what the heck's going on. They're just obeying orders, carrying out these orders.
It's almost like they took my work and turned it into what's really going on then.
Yeah.
It's just like the Smith agents, all this stuff. It's just like they took the work and just adapted it to, fine tune it to what's going on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
because they want to, they basically want to brainwash the world into allowing AI and allowing certain ETs to take over. So we willingly surrender our sovereignty to them. That's the end game.
And that's the words we use, Dave, right? Where I said,
yeah,
we're not giving our sovereignty over. We're not going to give
right.
our sovereignty over, no
Yeah.
matter what you offer.
What's going on with the politics though? Are there certain political issues? Do they run our governments? This AI, does it run our governments and our big banks?
Well, from what I understand, I think it's got all convoluted in the last 20 years because of technology. And I came across a TikTok video of a podcast where there are three people, and one of the guys being interviewed, he starts talking about the actual names of the families, and he spoke the Orsini family, the Farnecchi family, and the Columbus family are running the show. The Orsini family are the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers are the same family. They were the English families, and they basically run the military in MI6. And then the Farnecchi family, let's see if I remember this correctly, did they run the Pentagon or something? And then the Columbus family, no, the Farnecchi family are the banking families, and then the Columbus family runs the Pentagon.
I heard there's something like $10 trillion they have.
I don't know, but they basically manufacture money. If they're the royal families, the Medicis, the Merovingians, the popes that were part of it, King Henry and all that. That's all the European royalties and their families that broke up, and they're the Babylonian royalties.
Yeah.
The Roman royalties. They come from Rome. They change their names throughout history.
Yeah.
But that's who's running everything. The Orsini family is the most powerful family, according to this person, and so I don't know exactly how they operate because I don't know the details of exactly what they control. It seems pretty convoluted. If the Nazis are controlling the team alphabet, and well, I thought the Nazis and the English were enemies, but apparently not. And then then the other alphabet, that begins with an N, that's who Solar Warden is. I thought the Greys shared their technology with everybody, but that's where they're getting their technology. And the other alphabet, team alphabet that begins with a C, is getting their technology from the Dracos, and they're the Nazis.
This is all conjecture. We haven't been able to prove any of it. Can we?
Yeah, this is just theory and just things that I've heard through different videos.
So have I. I've heard
researching, so I don't know.
Might be able to help you guys out. It's like having been groomed by the inside by different factions within the group inside. They are not black and white. They are flexible. If they like you and they recruit you, you have influence on sway on the direction they will go. And that's why the screenplay shows that. The Neo character actually is invited in and can sway the path that will be taken.
Oh,
so it's amazing. So that's why I kept saying to you, Dave, I was going to go inside because that's what they're putting me on my own story. They said, well, that's what happens. The architect recruits.
Okay.
So guys, they are swayable. They're not fixed in stone. When they like you, they will hear your ideas and can start to shift according to what you offer. So it's not a black and white game.
All right, guys, the episode 2 is just went so fast. And once we get into this, hour really goes fast. And Spencer, is there something you want to tell people? You got a manuscript that you're going to finish?
Well, yeah, I wrote a book because this whole stuff about SSP and whatever you want to call it, the oligarchy. I got into this stuff many years ago, then I got out of it. It wasn't doing me any good. It just made me paranoid. I really came at this from the point of view of healing.
Yeah, we're running out of time.
PTSD. So my book is called Journey of the Wounded Healer, and I just want to help people who have suffered from PTSD be able to heal themselves.
We're running out of time here, running out of our So I want to thank you, Spencer Hau. We'll have to have you back on some other time. And my co-host, Tom Althouse. Thank you, buddy, as always. We've had a good time, and this is the Dave and Tom Show. And we'd like to thank you for listening. And this is episode 2 that'll be out 3-4 days maybe after the first episode to give you time to absorb the first one so we don't crowd you on social media. Thank you and good night, everybody. Bye-bye.